Happy New Year, everybody. Newcastle were the first visitors to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in 2025 in the Premier League, and I can't exactly say I'm looking forward to it. 5 wins in a row for the visitors, 2-0 against Man United last time out. Spurs, fragile at the moment, injuries galore, and this could be a long afternoon tomorrow. But Spurs, look, we should have beaten Newcastle earlier on in the season at St James's Park. They're better since then, but they have got a clear game plan that works against us. I think Newcastle have been a bit more free-flowing in recent weeks. But against us, they seem to have our number, especially under Ange Postecoglou, and I think that comes down to their out-of-possession setup. We've spoken about this before. I spoke about this on the Newcastle preview that I did before the first game of the season, or our first game against them of the season. And I'm going to speak about it again now. However, I think we saw a different kind of Newcastle, certainly against Man United, certainly away from home, and there's things that we can kind of take from that. If you are new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe. Nearly 8,000 subscribers. The daily lives during the January transfer window will be back. We started them yesterday. I'll see if I've got time to do one this afternoon. I'm going out in a little while. I've got a busy day today, but hopefully if there is some movement, we can talk about it. Obviously, Sam Johnston was rumoured. That seems like it's not happening anymore. There is going to be a video on the channel coming out next week, early next week, talking about kind of my ideal January and those kind of things. So make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that one. Seems like Man City is sniffing around cushion off now, so that'll be a difficult one to do. But on to tomorrow's game. Now, Newcastle, what are their strengths? Physicality and variety in midfield with Joelinton, Guimaraes and Tonali. Press proof with Tonali and Guimaraes. Isak has scored, I think he's 5 league away games in a row. Scored in every game in December. Anthony Gordon, tricky 1v1 winger, who, to be honest, I would have absolutely loved at Tottenham when we were first linked with him under Paratici and under Conte. Great fullbacks, Lewis Hall, Livramento, both really coming into their own this season, especially Lewis Hall. Their weakness comes at centre-half because they've got no Fabian Schär. However, there are rumours that Sven Botman will be available for the game. He's kind of declared himself fit, so we'll see how that one kind of materialises. But Newcastle are a good side. They are a good side. And like I said, look, 5 wins in a row in all competitions. Leicester, Brentford in the Carabao Cup, Ipswich away from home, Aston Villa at home. And they're not conceding goals either. Back-to-back clean sheets in their last 3 games, last 4 league games. But look, it's going to be such a difficult one for Spurs tomorrow. Let's talk about our team selection then, because I've kind of got what you'd say arguably is maybe our best 11 out here on paper. But I think it's time for a little bit of a mix-up. Look, I've always said that Son Heung-Min is always better after he's had kind of a rest, and he's had a week off now, or 6 days off before the game tomorrow. We know Jed Spencer's going to have to come back in, but I would quite like to see something like this. I think Kish from Lily White Lab has made a great point about this several times, talking about the variety in your winger profiles. You can't have 2 profiles on the pitch, say similar profiles on the pitch at the same time. I would like to see something like this tomorrow. Maddison out on that left-hand side that we saw him play for Leicester. We know that Newcastle, how they kind of tend to set up against us, they will sit back and kind of tuck into a 5. Lewis Hall, as a left-back, is kind of usually allowed more freedom. He's there very much more up and down. But Jacob Murphy, we spoke about this when we played Fulham, about Alex Iwobi and his kind of role, about how he will often kind of tuck in to support as a right back out of possession, obviously to kind of double up with Livramento. And if they are coming up against someone like Heung-Min Son, I think they will kind of double up and kind of take him out of the game, to be honest. I'm a bit worried about his involvement tomorrow. So I wouldn't mind seeing someone like James Maddison out on that left-hand side. I've been calling for it for a while, just to add that little bit of creativity. And if Lewis Hall is the one that's then going to step up and join the attack with Anthony Gordon, then you could potentially leave that space in behind for Brennan Johnson on that side. And I just think having 2 kind of final action players in Son and Johnson playing at the same time, I just don't think really works for Spurs. And I think having Kulusevski in the middle in this game for his physicality, for those kind of battles alongside Sarr and Basuma. Look, let's chat about the Man United game, because what Newcastle were able to do really well in this one was kind of create separation from Eriksen and Casemiro. And look, that's not that hard. Eriksen and Casemiro is a kind of a double pivot in Amorim's system. I think you're kind of asking for trouble, but also credit to Newcastle for kind of, making the most of that. Joelinton, Guimaraes, Tonali, so much rotation in there, so many different sort of profiles, and so much more energy. That's the main thing, right? And I think that's why, obviously, we've got no Bentancur tomorrow. I think that's why Basuma and Sarr have to play. Two players in there to kind of cover ground on transition, and have Kulusevski in there to kind of beef it up as well and add that creativity. Kulusevski I thought was good against Wolves. Obviously, we didn't do a Wolves video. This is kind of the first video back, actually, after Christmas. I just wanted to wind down a little bit over Christmas and kind of celebrate it and enjoy it with my family. So there wasn't that much content, but we are back stronger now. Yeah, I think you need Sarr and Basuma in there to kind of cover the ground. I think Kulusevski, I think he just does look more dangerous centrally. I think he's the kind of player you have to build the team around. But I think for that added creativity, if Newcastle are going to sit in and not going to allow necessarily that space in behind down this channel, I think Maddison is the one to maybe come in and play on that left-hand side. He can drift into more central areas as well. You kind of give him the license to do that. You've got Spence, who will know, obviously, a doggy can't play out for 8 weeks. Spence, we know he likes to kind of drift centrally, but he can also bomb up and down as well and take on Livramento. So I'd like to see this, Maddison a little bit more narrow and Spence kind of coming up a little bit more. So yeah, I would like to see that tomorrow. But yeah, on to Newcastle against United. This is kind of how they sort of set up playing out from the back. The two centre-backs kind of split in, Tonali coming in there, full-back staying higher and wider. What I love so much about this from a Newcastle perspective is they're so good at winning this second ball. Obviously, I think that's Eriksen comes in and wins the header, but Trippier straight onto it. Gamara is good in tight spaces and they quickly shift the ball. And then what they're able to do so well is spread that ball out wide. And this is something that Spurs have got to stop tomorrow. They've got to be super on it and stopping Tonali, switching this pass. He's got such a brilliant array of passing. He is the kind of creator in that Newcastle midfield. You can see Joelinton pushed up there almost as a second striker beyond Isak. And we can kind of have a look at a bit of their average positions from the game as well. Because I think they definitely pushed up higher than they have been doing in away games. But I think a lot of teams smell blood with United. You compare that to when we played them at St James's Park as we were the away side. Look how deep they are there. Longstaff, Guimaraes in midfield, Joelinton pushing up a little bit further. They're sat so deep. Spurs really pushed onto them. And we had, what was it? I think we had something like 70 or 66% possession in that game. So I think away from home, obviously that was at St James's Park where we know they can kind of sit in. But away from home, I think they're starting to be a little bit more brave, Newcastle. I think they kind of got that bit more confidence back. But stopping spreading these balls out to the wingers is key. Obviously, this one goes out, but Gordon so many times was able to face up Mazraoui. I think this is the Isak goal. Nice little combination play between Murphy and Isak. Murphy is such an underrated footballer, by the way. Such an underrated footballer. Works so hard for the team. And I think actually one thing we've seen with him this season is his quality in the final action has kind of gone through the roof. You think about that back heel assist to Isak. Against Ipswich, the goal he scored in that game as well, crashing it in off the bar. Nice little combination play. Again, that switch out to Lewis Hall, able to isolate Mazraoui. Lewis Hall, again, I spoke about the fullback that's going to push up. We know that we're going to leave space in behind with the fullbacks with Porro and Spence. I do worry about the battles of Gordon against Porro specifically, and Johnson as well on the recovery if Johnson does play. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. And it's a quality of cross. And then again, you think about how he gets between the two centre-halves. Well, three centre-halves and the Man United back three. Again, I worry about... I mean, Isak is a quality striker. I think if we had Romero and Van der Ven, I'd still be worried about him, of course. But with a makeshift centre-back pairing of Dragic and Gray, I'm just worried about him potentially having a field day with the separation that they can maybe create between those two. Liverpool scored 6 against us. I don't think that's going to happen tomorrow, but it could be a difficult one. Again here, Tonali just nipping in, winning that ball back. Joelinton, they're popping it off quickly. They're moving it out wide and getting crosses in from the other side. And again, we know that Spurs have had issues at the back post. Gordon coming in there. They can go direct over the top into Isak. Again, in behind, such a frightening player. Banana saves it on this occasion, but Isak should score in that one. They've got variety. Obviously, United kind of pressing there. And again, Spurs are going to be aggressive. They're going to press Newcastle high up the pitch, especially with the centre-backs that Newcastle will probably be putting out tomorrow if Shah isn't fit. Sorry, if Botman isn't fit, Shah's obviously suspended. Kelly, Byrne, not exactly the best on the ball. Spurs will press high. But the thing is what they have got. Obviously, this is kind of in a situation, this is kind of their out of possession shape. But obviously, if Spurs do press high up the pitch, what they'll want to do is if they do win the ball back here in these kind of situations, Tonali, they want to spray it. They want to get it in behind. They want to get it into Isak. They want to play off him and they want to move up the pitch. Or they want to go direct over the top into Isak in behind Gray and Dragic. So again, that's something that Spurs have got to be very wary of. Here again as well, kind of in tight spaces in midfield. Lovely little rotation. Guimaraes gets away from Eriksen. He's so press-proof, calm under pressure. Nice little 1-2 between him and Tonali, and they can move up. Out to Gordon. Skins his man, faces him up, and Joelinton is the man that arrives at the kind of in the middle of the box and heads it in. Again, those runners from deep. Joelinton kind of playing as that second striker with Tonali, and Guimaraes sitting a bit more as a base. Tonali, that deep line playmaker. it's going to be a difficult one for Spurs tomorrow. It really, really is. It really is. Hopefully, from a Spurs perspective, we should maybe have Mikey Moore on the bench. We should maybe have Richarlison on the bench. Obviously, Ange hasn't done his presser yet. By the time this video comes out, we might know. So obviously, let me know in the comments. It's just, yeah, I really see this being a difficult afternoon for Spurs. Obviously, we got the better of Newcastle at home last year. They still posed us threat on the counter-attack in that first half. We were able to get the goal early on with a doggy. I think if Spurs get the first goal in this one, and it opens up a bit more, it might be a different sort of game. But again, the game opening up also suits Newcastle. We saw against Wolves, obviously we sat that little bit deeper, especially in that second half. Wolves actually had more possession against us. But yeah, they were still able to kind of get in behind with that goal. They had one cleared off the line towards the end. So even if Spurs do sit deep, we're still going to be vulnerable with the back line that we have got. So it's such a difficult one. It is really difficult one to predict. I think if you were a kind of a betting man, you'd say that Newcastle all day in this one. They've won 5 in a row. Spurs are very vulnerable at the moment, and you think Isak against that back line, Gordon against Porro. Obviously, the good thing is for Spurs is that, look, obviously players like Spence would have had a good rest because he didn't play since Boxing Day. Sarr didn't start against Wolves, so he's going to be fresher for this one. He did come on, obviously, in that second half. Again, I think Son will start, but I'd just be intrigued to see something a little bit different tomorrow with Maddison on the left. But I think Son will start, and I think he's obviously fresher. Kulusevski and Solanke are the two players that I'm kind of worried about from a freshness perspective. And Newcastle kind of riding that wave of confidence. So it's going to be a very interesting one. Get your score predictions in the comments below. We'll speak on Sunday after the game. And yeah, hopefully Spurs can get back to winning ways and start 2025 with a win. Yeah, you guys let me know what you think in the comments. We'll be chatting on Sunday after the game. Have a good one, and up the Spurs.